Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the very first episode of the Field of 68 After Dark for the 2025-2026 college basketball season. All it took was 6 hours after we finished our 15-day media tour that took us to multiple different states, to 15 different conferences. We talked to over 200 coaches. We talked to that many players as well. And yeah, it took us 6 hours to be able to get back on the horse, ready to talk about the world of college basketball. We're 6 days away, boys. 6 days away from the Field of 68 opening day showcase that you can see right here on the Field of 68 Media Network. My name is Rob Dauster. I'm joined today. I got Randolph Childress here with me. I got Jeff Goodman here with me. And since we needed a real insider and a real expert and a real knowledge of the game, of the coaching world, of the coaching carousel, of the ins and outs of the hot seat, we had to bring in the expert, Jeff Borzello. What's going on, fellas? How are we doing? Are you ready? 6 days. College basketball season's almost here.
I'm excited.
Let's do it.
I'm ready because, frankly, we've been very positive over the last month. And 15 media days, a lot of ass kissing, and that ends. That ends right now.
Yeah, let's get right into it. Let's start firing every coach in college basketball. That's why we got you here, Goodman, to get rid of everybody. Everyone's getting a restart. There is a lot.
Can I get rid of you? Can I fire your ass first?
Not yet. Then you wouldn't have a host anymore. There's a lot that I want to talk about. Hubert Davis, I think, is the most interesting conversation that we can have. There's a lot of guys that are probably a year away from really having to be discussed on this show. And there's a lot of retirement, man. There's a lot of retirement rumors with some of the biggest name coaches and a lot of Hall of Famers that we need to talk about. But I'm going to start with this. And Borzello, I'm going to start with you. I'm curious your opinion because I think we've seen a little bit of an uptick here in the number of football coaches that have been fired midseason. Obviously, Penn State's open, Florida State's open. We got LSU open. We got all of these different Oklahoma State's open, all of these different big-time college football jobs that are opening up mid-season, and it feels like that's a trend of athletic directors trying to get ahead of the portal, trying to get ahead of the process, trying to get a jump start and kickstart and get to the front of the line when it comes to finding the best candidate to replace them and to fill these openings. Is this something that you think we're going to start seeing in the world of college basketball as well?
I mean, you could argue that college basketball sort of started, didn't start it, but it happened in college basketball last year. I mean, think about all the guys that announced they were stepping down at the end of the season, midway through the year. Larinaga, Leonard Hamilton, Mike Woodson. 2 years ago, Ohio State fired Chris Holtmann in mid-February. It's not necessarily a new thing. Obviously, Virginia opened before last season even started when Tony Bennett stepped down. Now, those were all retirements for the most part, but, searches are starting and decisions are being made earlier than ever. I think on the football side, some of it has to do with, I guess, the perception that there's not a huge crop of coaches ready to fill these biggest jobs. But I think in basketball, you want to have your program pretty stable before the portal opens, whether it's to retain whoever you want to bring back, get organized before the portal opens so you can go get guys that jump in the portal that first week. But yeah, I mean, the timeline for things is a lot quicker. You can't really wait until mid-April and kind of decide, see what happens, see what the landscape looks like. You have to make that decision, pretty much as soon as you can, just to get ready for the portal. Because once the portal opens, it's a sprint to get your roster in order.
That's the difference. The portal's changed everything. And like Borzello said, if you wait too long, you're missing on a bunch of kids, and you've got to do legwork now. And that's the advantage, right? If you fire your coach right now in football, get in a new coach sooner rather than later, at least you can start to kind of hit that portal and do some of that legwork early. So, yeah, I mean, I don't think we're going to see like we do now in football. I don't think you're going to see this many big names and the big buyouts. Obviously, they're not at the same level as football with Brian Kelly and James Franklin and Billy Napier, some of these guys. But I think you'll see, more than usual early, just not at the level that we're seeing in football.
I do think it also, the football side shows the kind of lack of patience that decision makers also have now. They're in football, it's 3 losses and you're suddenly on the hot seat. Basketball, obviously, it takes a little bit more, but you're not getting that 5-year runway to rebuild the program. You have to show signs in year 2, if not year 1, to really kind of be on stable footing going into year 2 and 3.
I think
Go
it's
ahead,
different
Randolph.
in the sense of football. Football is driving this thing, so that's a different animal in the sense of how they address it. In basketball, there's a few times you may have an assistant or someone in the building you may be interested in kind of taking over for a little while. We've seen those guys take over, whether it was Rodney Terry, kind of take over. We saw Diebler, whether he continues and transform things and takes over and wins. But I don't think it accelerates the hiring process. Now we'll know when guys and Jay Lucas taking over Miami. I think it's more along the lines of what we'll see. But that's a school that identified an assistant coach. A lot of times we still see the mid-major guys taken up when they make the tournament and things of that nature, and still have to wait the due process until the season. And so I think it'll be rare cases where it happens. Sometimes it'll happen more when you hire an assistant coach. It just makes more sense if you hire a guy like Jay Lucas' situation, that it's just best for everybody that you move on.
The other big difference is the athletic directors aren't making the decisions anymore in a lot of cases. That it's the money people, it's the boosters. And when they're saying they're out and they want something to be done, the ADs don't have much of a choice. Frankly, the ADs aren't the boss anymore. It's the money people, it's the boosters. So I think that has also changed the landscape of how quickly things move.
The other question that I have for you guys is the size of the buyouts that we see with a lot of these coaches, right? Like James Franklin's was what, $50 million. Brian Kelly was, I think, $55 million. At least that's what's being reported. Is this Goodman and Borzello? I want you guys' opinion on this. Is this something where you think we're going to see changes here? Because that's a lot of money that you could be putting towards rev share, that you could be putting towards different facilities, that you could be putting towards finding a way. Like if that money's coming from a booster, it could be going into collectives and going into the pockets of players and helping you get a new point guard or starting quarterback or big man, whatever it ends up being. Are we going to start seeing the change in the way that these buyouts are structured?
I don't think so. I think that there's so much money being thrown around now with rosters and like I don't see coaches suddenly taking pay cuts to build a better roster. There's clearly enough money to go around. I mean, schools can pay $55 million or whatever it is for a coach that's no longer coaching there, plus whoever they're going to hire next. Like, there's clearly money at most of these schools to pay these salaries, and you're still going to have to, if you want, whoever Penn State hires, they're still going to have to woo them from whatever college they're at, and those guys are not leaving to go to Penn State for less money. So the top schools and the Power 4, Power 5 schools, there is still more than enough money to continue to pay these, and a lot of these guys are they're gonna keep getting guaranteed deals. Again, if you fire a guy after 2-3 years, you're gonna have to pay that. But it seems like nobody is really willing to take less money. Schools are still willing to go and give these guaranteed contracts. I don't see that really changing, especially when everyone else is getting more money.
I mean, think about what Kurt Cignetti has done for Indiana football and how much money. There was nobody in the seats before he took over. Now you're making, whatever it is per game. It's an insane amount because, the stadium's full. If LSU wants Kurt Cignetti, they're going to have to pay for him. And he's got the leverage to right now say, hey, the only way I'm coming, I don't think he's leaving for LSU, but the only way I'm coming is again, with a ridiculous buyout. And LSU and Florida and Penn State would probably all say, you know what? Go ahead. Just give us a number. Give us a number, and we got to have you.
$6 billion. RC, don't you love how it always comes back to Indiana football? Whenever Goodman's talking, it's Indiana football, Indiana basketball. My daughter goes to Indiana. Do you know how much I hear
country
about
what would you like me
the University of Indiana? It's nonstop. I know more about the University of Indiana than I ever wanted to know my entire life.
I don't think it's as bad as you guys say. I think there's certain schools and certain programs. Again, football is just a different animal. And the money that some of those schools can generate, we're talking about LSU and Penn State. I mean, I know we're going to get into basketball here, but those are just programs with that type of money. There's still, we can say all we want. There's not that many Power 5 schools willing to write that check. We've seen A&M, LSU, Penn State, and we can name a few others, but there are not many other schools willing to write a check that big.
Yep. All right. There is one program that has a coach that at least deserves mention when it comes to the hot seat conversation. that is on par in a basketball sense for what you see for Florida and LSU and Penn State and programs like that. And that's North Carolina. And the Hubert Davis conversation has been one that it feels like we've been talking about for like a year and a half, maybe 2 years at this point, which is weird for a guy that has been to a national title game and was a number 1 seed and really has actually had some success there at North Carolina. And Randolph, I know you have strong opinions on this. So where do you stand on Hubert Davis? What does he have to do this season? And is there a real jeopardy for his standing as the head coach at North Carolina?
You know what? I'm not as avid as a lot of you guys are. I'd say there's smoke this far. I mean, there's a lot of rumors and there's a lot of things going out there. I still said this, and I said this to Jeff at one point in time. You can take his resume and you can take his 4 years and give it to every other school in the ACC and they get an extension.
Mm-hmm.
Outside of Duke, maybe now, Louisville doesn't even have that schedule the last couple of years. So, I mean, what program in the ACC, or really, there's not many programs in college basketball that you can't take. And let me finish, Jeff. And when I'm talking about the results, whether you like how it ends up is all I'm saying. I'm talking about a Final Four, a Sweet 16, and a first round exit, and he misses it 1 year. I get it. It's not the expectations of Carolina, and that's a whole different conversation. So that's part of it. I think.
Yeah, in December he did, right?
He got a 2-year extension through 2030. Yeah,
he got an extension. I also think what hurts him is because he's judged by what's happening across the street, and I think they were late to the party with the GM and everything else. I think the transition with Shire has just crushed it, and I think he's being held to that standard as well. People may not like him, but that's a big part of this as well. Because if you remove the name and you remove Carolina and just look at the results, not how they got there, whether they were bad all year long, and just took the results, there's not another team in this league that wouldn't say, I signed up for that. I'd sign up for a half away from winning a natty, maybe 10 years. Who wouldn't, Jeff? Tell me who wouldn't. A first-round exit, a Sweet 16 exit, and we don't make it 1 year. So 3 out of 4 years we do that. What program in this league
would the regular season championship thrown in the mix?
And a regular season championship.
Louisville, when Kenny Payne didn't destroy the program.
Louisville was horrible 2 years ago. So they would take the last 4 years of Hubert Davis. Now, we can talk about what the next 4 years are going to look like. But when we talk about the last 4 years of Louisville, they won, 8 games in 2 years? I mean, so we definitely can't add Louisville to the conversation. So who else?
No. All I'm saying is, listen, the bottom line is what Carolina has done under Hubert Davis is mediocre. It's mediocre, period, by Carolina standards. You can't push back on that. It's not good enough. They got to the final game, I get it, year 1. They were fortunate to get there. We know how much the tournament means. Great job. All right, well, then if you want to say that, well, the third year was kind of the opposite, right? Unbelievable regular season, kind of underachieved in the tournament. Last year, they backed their way in, shouldn't have got in the NCAA tournament. And the second year, they didn't get in the NCAA tournament. So for all intents and purposes, 3 of the 4 years that Hubert Davis has been the head coach at North Carolina, on February 27th, they've been squarely on the bubble. That isn't good enough.
Borzello?
I mean, I think I'm somewhere in the middle. I mean, I lean more toward Goodman. I just think that he's judged, RC mentioned he's judged based on what Duke's been doing. He's also judged on just the expectations of Carolina. And
of course,
having even this year, the top 25 caliber team should make the tournament. Is that good enough? It's just making the tournament good enough this year. I don't know. I mean, it seems, Carolina is used to deep runs in the tournament. Now they've made 2 in his 4 years, and, that's commendable. It's just, does he have to make another Sweet 16 run this year just to be safe? And so I think that's a big part of it. It's compared to what, his predecessor did, which was, essentially put Carolina in position to compete for a title every single season. He replaced a legend. And with that comes expectations that are just, are they unfair? I don't know. But he's got to kind of live up to them.
No, they're not unfair. How much money does he have this year, Borzello? This coming season?
That's the thing.
But Jeff, I think that this year, I think we've seen the changes in what they put forth in it this year. That has not been the case the entire time he's been there. And again, I'm not saying there shouldn't be a level of expectation or that they're.
I mean, you can't say they didn't have enough talent last season. They had a talented roster.
I don't think they would have talent a year ago. I thought they had. I'll say this. Money isn't the problem. The mistake I thought of last year's roster was I didn't like the construction of the roster. The guard play everybody talks about. You can talk to me.
I agree with that.
And I know that is his fault. I'm not absolving him from that. I'm just saying when we talk about it, we're opening up like this is the number one, like he's been that bad. This isn't Doherty. Like this isn't a Doherty regime. So I'm just only talking about, I'm not saying he shouldn't have some expectation. There shouldn't be a little bit of pressure on him. But we're sitting here talking about of all the jobs that he's number one.
I don't know if he's I don't think he's got the hottest seat. I just think it's the biggest job. I mean, and that's a whole other conversation is when Roy Williams stepped down, it was the perception was this is the best job in the country. Or at least has a strong argument to be. Is it still now? I mean, I guess that could be the date we have in 5 months.
It's top 3.
Yes, it ain't fault. It hadn't fallen.
I agree.
Still that.
Yeah. No, I agree. Yes. And so that is part of it. Is the expectations for the next guy, whenever that happens, is still going to be national titles. And so Hubert Davis is held to those same standards. And, outside of 1 year, and I'm not even counting the year he went to the title game, that was a tremendous run. But the best year they had, it was the Sweet 16. It was the 1 seed. That was a great season. He has just not come close to that in the other years.
Yeah, what does he have to do? Here's my question, Dauster, and I think we should all answer this. What does Hubert Davis need to do this season in order to keep his job? Because a first-round exit, you're gone. To me, you're gone. I think you got to probably got to be a top 10-ish team and get to a Sweet 16. I think that you do that.
That's a big.
Okay,
I think that's a big
solid year.
I think that's a big
lofty goal.
That's a lot.
I
don't think Jeff. I don't think. I think his expectations to make the tournament. But I don't think that if he makes the tournament, I don't think they're going to fire him.
Win a game, lose in the second round, you think he's gone?
Yeah.
I think
I do.
I think you give him one more year after that. But I will say this.
This isn't Virginia Tech.
How many times are you going to say it's North Carolina? Where I think we're at 6 now.
You guys are forgetting it. Like, I can't believe that it's okay.
Borzello, what school is it? It's North Carolina.
North Carolina.
Here.
It's the blue school. It's the blue school or I-40.
The way I phrase it is that he's put himself in a situation where he has to have a good season, right? If this is another one like last year where you don't get big wins, you kind of back your way into the tournament where you may have got a little bit lucky because Bubba Cunningham was helping influence some of those decisions, maybe kind of sort of just a little bit. That probably won't be enough. If you are a top
they have to get off to a good start.
Yes.
They have to get off to a good start. The key to this group is they've got to get off to a good start. I think he's done himself a favor. I don't think there's scheduling. Like I thought last year, them in Louisville had like the toughest schedule in the country the last couple of years. I think he has backed off that a little bit, give his group enough time to gel, and I think that'll help him to get off to a better start because I think that's critical. Because if not, then the noise just becomes entirely too loud for anybody.
Let's phrase it like this. We'll move on in about a minute after this, right? He's got Caleb Wilson, right? He's got Henry Visar. He's got Luka Bogovic. Right. Seth Trimble is a guy that I think is your perfect kind of role player, veteran, culture guy. And you got Kyan Evans at the point. Does he have enough with Jonathan Powell, Jaron Stevenson, a couple good freshmen that are coming off the bench? Does he have the roster that will be good enough to put you in a position to be like a top 10, top 15-ish kind of team? Because I think he has the pieces if Caleb Wilson and Luka Bogovic live up to their expectations. And if
I agree with everything you just said, I do. Right? And my answer to that is yes. I like this team. They play hard. They have played hard for him. I like the talent of the team. It's different. I like this team the way it's constructed. It's not even close to what I thought of the group last year. I think he'll silence the critics early, and I like what he's done so far. I mean, in the offseason with the group. We'll see what happens. We always got to wait and see. I think they got to get off to a really good start, but I think he'll silence all the critics and all the other stuff as the season goes on.
Yep. All right. Borzello, let's get into the rest of the ACC here because there are it's probably the league that we have to spend the most time on this year when it comes to the hot seat. Mike Young is someone that you mentioned in the column you wrote for ESPN. Red Autry is someone that's got the pressure's heating up a little bit. I think that they got a team to be able to make some noise this year. Earl Grant, Steve Forbes, Jeff Capel. How many, let me phrase it like this. How many of those guys do you think are really in jeopardy of having to have a conversation at the end of the season?
At the end of the season, I think we're probably going to have a conversation about 3 of them, at least 2 of them, I think. I mean, to me, like, Red Autry, when the athletic director has to come out and kind of give the vote of confidence, it's generally not a great sign going into the next year. Now, Syracuse does have, when it comes to pure talent, there's not a lot of teams in the ACC that have more than them on paper. And so I think there's enough there to go to the tournament. If he doesn't, then, it's going to be 3 years, no tournament. Again, another guy replacing a legend, but it's just, it hasn't been good enough, especially given what this roster looks like. And so I think we could be looking at having this conversation about him in 5 months. Earl Grant, I would put him in that same boat. It's year 5. They just haven't been good enough. Showed signs of improvement, of optimism a couple of years ago, took a massive step back last season, 4-16 in the league. Not a lot of talent on this year's roster. I don't see a huge improvement coming. I do think Mike Young will probably be off this hot seat come March. I think that the roster's good. The one thing about him, he's only has 1 year left on his contract after this year. So something will have to happen one way or the other, whether it's an extension or something else, or he's just not good enough and they move on. But I think that, he's got the type of roster to make this conversation pretty relevant for him. The other thing is they're also going through a football coaching search. So that's a lot of searches for them to go through in a short amount of time. But I do think Red Autry and Earl Grant are probably still going to be on this list come March.
Goodman, where do you stand?
One more thing before, just regarding the Carolina situation, just so we are aware here. Hubert Davis's buyout is about it's about $6 million for Hubert Davis's buyout. So I just wanted to get that out there.
Got it.
Mike Young, I agree with Borzello. Listen, we know the guy can coach. He didn't have money before this year. He's got money now, enough money. Not Carolina money, not Hubert money, but he's got some money, and he's got a terrific guard in the kid Neo. So I think Mike Young will work his way off the hot seat. I think Red Autry will work his way off the hot seat too. But as Borzello said, I mean, you got pressure here. I think he's got a good roster. Again, another guy that's been able to raise enough money and retain Donnie Freeman and J.J. Starling. So I think he'll be okay. Earl Grant, it's whether BC gives a shit, to be honest.
Mm-hmm.
That's what it comes down to. It's the third sport. I know everybody kind of compares everybody to Al Skinner. Al Skinner also was a really good coach, and he had a couple of guys named Ed Cooley and Bill Cohen as his assistants. We'll never see that again. I don't know who you hire at BC that's going to get it done in this climate. I think Jared Dudley would be the guy, and I'd just say, maybe NIL-wise, but Jared's not going back anyway. He's too close to an NBA head coaching job. And I think Steve Forbes. So I think Earl Grant's the one in the most trouble. I think at the end of the year, Earl Grant is probably the one that doesn't make it. And Steve Forbes, it all depends on Mitt and what Mitt wants to do. Mitt Shaw, who gave $5 million, the booster gave $5 million to the men's basketball program a year or so ago. So Forbes doesn't have a tournament on his resume, but the AD John Curry loves him. He hired him. Everybody loves Forbes. But again, he hasn't made a tournament. So you got to make one, or else you're in major trouble going into next year.
RC, when it comes to Syracuse, right, I think I do want to talk a little bit about them because I do think Red needs to have a big year. I also think that they hired the GM, they got Alex Klein up there. I do think that they have the bodies to be able to have a big year. And to me, the big question is, you bring in Nathan George, really, really good point guard. You got JJ Starling with him. Does Red have enough to be able to make this work? Like, are you buying him as the coach that can take all of these pieces and make it work and put a team together out on the floor for Syracuse that's going to win enough games?
I'm on record. I think they make the tournament. I think that the next four. We talked about it before from Duke, Louisville, State, and Carolina would be the top 4 seeds. I think everybody kind of consistently picked those guys. I think Syracuse is right that next group with SMU and however everyone else chose to decide. The thing I think in context is, like, we're talking about Hubert's in trouble because of that program. When we talk about Red, it's always thrown in there, hey, Syracuse hadn't made the tournament the last 4 years. Red's only been there 2. So It's not like this program was humming along before he got there. You didn't invest in it. We're just hanging on to this tradition of what Syracuse was. And I think this is the best chance he has. His name being here this early is off of I get it with Carolina and Hubert. Even though I was saying before, I get it because you got everything. Everything. That's not the case.
And it's year 5. And it's year 5.
Yes. So I understand that. But I'm talking about for Red, it's year 3. He won 20-some games a year before, and then last year, I think he took a big step in roster construction because I think, again, Eddie Lampkin was his center. They were horrible defensively. They didn't have point guard play a year ago. I think he went out. You saw he got Nate George. He identified the issues. He addressed them. I love their talent. I think without question now, if they remain healthy, I think they make the NCAA tournament and all this kind of goes to waste. But again, it's one of those programs if you financially back someone for multiple years, I get it. But Syracuse, you didn't have that. This is a new thing. It's kind of the same thing with Mike Young. We talked about Mike Young. We know Mike Young is a hell of a coach, but let's be honest. It's not like you dumped a whole bunch of money. You wait until this year, and then you finally give him money to get to be able to construct the roster to be able to compete. He's shown you what he can do with talent. So I think some of this, and the same thing for BC, and Jeff said it perfectly. It just matters if BC is going to give a shit. He improved. He went from 13, 16 wins to 20 wins. And then he took a step back last year. And it's just amazing how that go because he looked like the right guy. He looked like he was the right guy. Now they finally had to put some money into the program. And they'll be better. So
I would still push back on you there, RC. And I like Earl a lot, but I would say, to me, at Boston College, even in this climate where it is portal heavy, I would still go get a New England guy. And I would have done that before.
That's fine, but it does. I don't give a damn if the New England guys Red are back. If he don't have no money, they gonna suck. Like, what are we talking about? I don't give a damn who.
No, you're right.
If you don't have any money, you got mid-major programs that have their own gym. They're still sharing a newly renovated gym with their women. Like, come on. So, like,
hey, that might have been RC's best line. That might have been RC's best line he's had in his Field of 68 career, right there.
Yeah, it really was. Listen, we got a lot more to get to here, breaking down the hot seat. We're going to get to the Big 12. There's a couple names that are interesting there, specifically Wes Miller. The Big East has some interesting conversations to have, and we got to talk about Jake Dealer over there at Ohio State because it feels a little early, but it also feels like it's the right time to have a conversation about where that stands. All of that coming up next. We all know the Players Era Festival has become the best field in all of college basketball. And you have the opportunity to win a VIP trip to the Players Era Festival in Las Vegas, thanks to our partners over at BetMGM. Here's how it works. Opt into the contest and start placing bets on any sport of at least $10 with plus 100 odds or greater. When you do that, you earn leaderboard points based on the bet's odds and the amount that you wager. The more you bet, the higher the odds, the more points that you earn. The top players in that contest are going to win a prize package that includes tickets to the games, withdrawable funds for travel, a 4-night stay at the luxurious Mandalay Bay here in Las Vegas, and more. For the full list of prizes, look in the description below. Make the tournament legendary with BetMGM. Vegas is calling. You going to answer? The college basketball season will begin right here on the Field of 68. At 8 a.m. on November 3rd, we will be tipping off the inaugural Field of 68 opening day marathon. 15 hours of nonstop basketball. It will begin in Rock Hill, presented by our friends at Visit York County. Plan your itinerary today at visityorkcounty.com. Winthrop will face off with Queens in the opener, followed by Bradley taking on St. Bonaventure. Then we head out to Sioux Falls, South Dakota, where it'll be presented by Sanford Sports, who is changing the way people play and making sports accessible and fun for all. Murray State gets Omaha at 1 p.m. Eastern Time, with Drake taking on Northern Arizona in the second game in Sioux Falls. Then it's back to Rock Hill for a showdown between Furman and High Point, with Merrimack taking on South Dakota State in Sioux Falls in the nightcap. Tickets for all 6 games are on sale now at the links in the description below. Field of 68, opening day. Well, welcome back to the Field of 68 After Dark. Rob Dauster, Jeff Goodman, Jeff Borzello, and Randolph Childress breaking down the coaching carousel. I guess Goodman loves calling it the hot seat show. I like calling it the coaching carousel show. A little preview of what can come in March if things go sideways. Let's talk a little bit about the Big 12. Bobby Hurley is probably the biggest name. Johnny Dawkins might be the best player that is on the hot seat in that conference, but I think Wes Miller is the guy where the job is the most interesting in terms of what has to happen there, right? Like he was, Borzello, probably like 7 or 8 years ago, one of the hottest mid-major names that you could find for what he would, the success that he had at UNC Greensboro, the North Carolina pedigree. I think there were a lot of people that were saying, hey, that might be the dude that's next in line for when Roy Williams ends up retiring. It has not gone great for him at Cincinnati. Some of it has had to do with things that have been out of his control, but he's in a spot now, Jeff, where he kind of has to have a big year here. Is there real pressure on him for his job? Is this a situation where we could be looking at Cincinnati making a coaching change if things go sideways on West this season?
I think so. I mean, anytime you go into year 5 without an NCAA tournament appearance, that you're going to have pressure on you, especially, and we've talked about this with a few schools now, when you put money into a program to build a roster and pay a roster a significant amount of money, that comes with expectations. And last year, they had preseason top 25 expectations, started off well, and then completely faltered in Big 12 play. They, spent a lot of money to rebuild this or reload this year's roster, and now they go into the season with, again, NCAA tournament expectations. And so I just think when, it's kind of a common theme that we keep talking about. When you spend that kind of money to build a roster, you have to make the tournament. And I think if he goes 5 for 5 with 0 tournaments without making a tournament, especially the last 2 years, he's had enough talent, certainly, to make the tournament. I do think it puts him under a considerable amount of pressure. And the other thing is his guaranteed money drops from around $10 million to, I think, a little less than $5 million on April 1st. And it's a much more manageable payout if things do go sideways and they had to move on.
I'm still trying to figure out how you got from he goes 5 for 5 with 0 tournaments. Wouldn't it be 0 for 5?
5 for 5 on missing tournaments.
That's it.
Yeah, it's easier to say 0 for 5 going to the tournament, Borzello. Just so you know.
I'm going 5 for 5.
It's a little simpler
for the tournament. It's 5 for 5.
For guys who have done 50 media days, it's a lot simpler for us to understand.
How many times are you going to mention that?
Mick Cronin, when he was at Cincinnati, went to 9 straight tournaments. 9 straight tournaments. I know they're in the Big 12 now. I get it, but Wes had opportunities in the American, and he was 500. He has not been good with money, with resources over the last couple of years at Cincinnati. This is the year for Wes Miller. If Wes Miller doesn't win this year, doesn't get him in the NCAA tournament, I do not believe he will be the head coach of Cincinnati next year, period.
It's his 3rd year in the Big 12. I think he's doing 22 wins, 19 wins. You're right. They put money in it. But my question would be to you guys, in that transition in the Big 12, the first year, the Big 12 was like the SEC was a year ago, 2 years ago. And again, I don't know. I don't disagree with what you're saying, Jeff. I mean, Jeff, I get that, you're saying that, what the past and what Mick Cronin did in his time there now. I think coming into the Big 12, it's got to be a little different. I don't think he can have a disastrous year, right? I think he can get another year if they're just respectable. Obviously, if they make the tournament, it's a different conversation. He may get a long-term extension. But I just think he can't, collapse the way he did. He finished the second half of the season. They started out 10-1. We go back to January 1 of last year. They were calling for him to be the next Carolina head coach.
Yes.
Not that we're talking about them. They were saying that he got up to that hot start and things collapsed in conference play. He's going to have to, figure it out and make sure that they right the ship in conference play. There's talent there. We know that. But yeah, I do think this is a really big year for him. But I think he's done a really good job, and I think people underestimate.
My argument against the whole change in conferences, it's not like they're fighting an uphill battle from a talent perspective. Last year and this year, like they could go toe to toe with most of that league from a pure on paper roster perspective. Like they have enough money, they have the resources, the roster's good enough. So that would be my only pushback with the kind of giving them a little extra leeway for change in conferences. They've had enough firepower to go in and get an NCAA tournament bid last season. And again, if he gets this season, then this conversation's meaningless. But I don't. You give him a pass for year one, and they won 22 games, which he doesn't need a pass for that. But last year, I don't know if I give him a pass for not making the tournament last year.
What about you're giving him a pass for 3 years in the American Conference too?
No, it was 2 years. But I'm just saying I am not I'm pushing back against what RC said in terms of he should get extra time because they changed leagues.
I know. Yeah, I just
no. I'm not saying extra time. I said he should get another year. I'm not asking any more time. 5 years is enough. But I'm saying I don't think I'm saying it shouldn't be. I think he can return next year because he has won. He can't finish the year the way the second half of the season went because it was a disaster. I think if he has a good year and they're a fringe tournament team they get in, I think he could come back. That's all I'm saying. I don't. He hasn't been horrible.
No, we're not saying he's been horrible. We're just saying like, hey, you go 0 for 5 or whatever Borzello said. He's gone.
He's going 5 for 5. Whatever.
5 for 5 on missing.
Like 5 for 5 on misses.
Bobby Hurley and Johnny Dawkins, real quick. Goodman, two former Duke point guards. It feels like Bobby Hurley's been on the hot seat at Arizona State for 37 years. And Johnny Dawkins, obviously, he's had some moments at UCF where it's looked like a good thing, and they moved into the Big 12, which is not going to be an easy thing in a program like that. But obviously has not been great. One NCAA tournament appearance in 10 seasons.
Yeah, and the big thing is both, if they're let go after this year, the school will owe both of them nothing.
Yep.
So, Bobby Hurley went to the tournament in 2023. Wasn't that long ago, but 4 of the last 5 seasons have been subpar. And they had some money last year. They had the talent last year. Couldn't retain Quaintance. Couldn't retain Sanan going to St. John's. Those guys are both gone. Didn't have the money. Now you have a roster that just doesn't look the part of anything close to an NCAA tournament team. You got a fairly new AD there in Graham Rossini. So I don't think Bobby. I don't think he's the head coach there next year in Tempe. And Johnny Dawkins, again, kind of like it's a football guy who's the AD there. Okay, he's a football guy. I don't think he really cares. And I think they didn't want to pay the buyout, and now they're not going to have to after this year. Again, Keyshawn Hall left. They don't have any. They don't have a roster resembling anything that looks like an NCAA tournament team. So I don't expect Johnny to be the head coach there next year as well.
Yep. All right. Let's go to the Big East. Kim English and Thad Matta are the two ones that kind of popped going when you were putting together the list. I think Kim is the interesting one, right? Like he won 21 games his first year. They probably should have been a tournament team. They were one of the 3 Big East teams that got a little bit unlucky with how many automatic bids popped up that kind of pushed them from probably being on the right side of the bubble to being on the wrong side of the bubble. It didn't help that he had to deal with 2 years of the Bryce Hopkins saga, right? Like last year, I would say that restraining from throwing Bryce under the bus for the way that kind of played out was probably one of the tougher things that he's had to deal with. But no NCAA tournaments in 2 years. It feels a little bit too early to be having this conversation, but I would also say, RC, he's got the roster this year at Providence in a conference where, I mean, it's a top 2 in the Big East, and after that, it's pretty wide open. He's got the horses to be able to finish third in that race this season, I think. And that puts
And I
this
think he
entire
will.
conversation to bed.
Yeah, and I think he will.
Third seems.
I think he will.
You think he finishes third?
I think he finishes in the top 4.
Interesting. I don't love the roster as much as you
who
guys
else
do.
is
I
that
don't
good
think
in the
he's-
Big East? Who's that good,
I mean,
Borzello, other than UConn? Obviously, UConn and St.
I would
John's.
put Creighton ahead of them.
Third is open.
I put Creighton ahead of them.
Okay, that's fair. But it's not like
I mean,
Creighton
I
is
think Marquette.
overpowering.
I think Marquette gets the benefit of the doubt for what Shock has done there. I just kind of trust their retention. I think Georgetown's is going to be improved on paper. Like I'm not saying I think Kim will get another year. I just the finishing third surprised me when Dauster said it. But the other part of Kim, he's owed a tremendous amount of money if they were to move on after this year. It just feels early to me. I think it's a conversation we could have next year. But if he does finish top 3, top 4, even top 5 in the league, we're not having this conversation at all in March, next year, at any point, anytime soon.
Well, we know that the AD Knapp, stuck himself out there to hire Kim English, right, from George Mason. So he's going to protect him at all costs. I agree. I think they're an NCAA tournament team. He obviously had some tough luck last year with Bryce. I don't think you'd say that with year one because, frankly, if it weren't for the 2-time transfer rule, he might not have Carter or Bryce Hopkins on the team to begin with. He also inherited a program that was rolling along when Ed Cooley left. But I think they're going to be fine this year. I think they make the NCAA tournament, and I think Kim English will be just fine at Providence, and those crazy fans will, the 50% or so that I think are kind of torn on whether Kim English should be the head coach going forward, I think we'll be back on the side of Kim English after this year.
Yeah, it's
I'd
a
be
lot easier to coach.
surprised. I'd be surprised if they're not in the tournament, and I'd be surprised in another year or two. We're not talking about him being the next one of these high major coaches that get hired in the next cycle. I'd be more inclined to lean that way than I would him being fired.
Yeah,
well, they had money too. That's the other part, Rob. They had my sources something close to double-figure $1 million, not quite, but not that far away from $10 million in NIL this year, which put together again a good roster.
Yep. Yeah, I think that they're going to have a chance to be able to make a bit of noise here. It's a lot easier to coach when your best player isn't sitting out for different reasons. Thad Matta and Greg McDermott. I think this is where we kind of pivot into the will he or won't he retirement part of the conversation, right? I think that is probably a little bit more Greg. We already know who was replacing him there. But Thad Matta, I mean, it hasn't gone the way at Butler that we maybe thought it was going to go the first time that he was hired. I don't know where you stand on Thad Borzello, but he's one of the guys that you have on a list for retirement to watch.
Yeah, I mean, it hasn't really worked out. He's 21-39 in the Big East since coming back. I don't think the roster, projects to dramatically improve on those numbers this season. They don't seem like a team that's going to compete for a NCAA tournament appearance. I think, I don't think he's in danger of being fired. I think that Butler would let him, depart as he, if he wants after this season. But I could see them coming to an amicable parting of ways at some point if he wants to keep coaching. I think he'll probably get another year. I think it's a little bit more, maybe the timeline's not as cut and dry with Greg McDermott, but when you convince a sitting head coach that could have jumped to a different Power 5 school after what he did at High Point, Alan Huss, if you convince him to come along as your coach in waiting, I think that there is some sort of sign that, hey, this is not going to last more than another year or two. Now, he has said that, there's no specific timeline and, I want to keep coaching, but, I think there has to be something there where Alan Huss was like, okay, I'll leave and I'll go back to Creighton and I'll coach under you for a couple of years. I don't think that he's going there to coach under McDermott for 5 years.
Yep, that's kind of where I'm at with it too. RC, the Big Ten feels like the league where coaches have the most job security, right? You got Painter, you got Izzo, you got a new hire at Indiana, you got a new hire at Maryland, Nico Medved, you got Ben McCollum, you got You got a lot of guys there that have either been hired recently or are just never ever going to be run out of the building anytime soon. So, is there anyone that you see kind of having their seat heat up? We'll talk about Jake Diebler here in a second because I think that's an interesting conversation. But is there anyone that's really in danger in that conference? And I would say the guy at Penn State, Mike Rhodes. There's $50 million of buyout money that should make him feel a little bit safer here this season.
I don't. I mean, I got a better chance of growing hair like Borzello than I think anybody getting fired in the Big Ten this year. So I know Jake Diebler's name's been thrown out there, but I think it's just way too early to even have his name. And we've talked about this before. The resources that go to football there, and this is Ohio State. I think it's, I've said this before, it's not an indictment against them, but it's football's way up here, and in this basketball, it's down here. I think there's resources there, and I think it's just you hire a guy, and he's just 1 year in. I just don't see it being a program that the expectations are that high that you fire a guy this early. He wasn't that bad. He's not Kenny Payne in it. It's not that bad. So I just think it's just too premature to jump out there and have him even mentioning in the hot seat. I think that whole league is, with the turnover they just had, they went through that cycle. Now I think everyone is pretty good, pretty solid.
Poor Kenny, man. Kenny Payne just I feel like for the rest of eternity, he's going to be that. Like that's who we compare him to. Yeah, he might not be great, but he's not Kenny Payne.
On this, that's two references on this episode alone. And he hasn't coached in college in a couple of years now.
Dude, he's earned it. He earned
You earn it when you're that bad, and then a guy comes in there behind you and they're that good. Like
correct.
It's like
that's
like
right.
That's the difference. We're not talking about a 5-10 game improvement. We're talking about 18-2 in the league.
He wins
and really was prior healthy from being a top 15 team in the country. Like, are you kidding me?
I would say this regarding Jake Diebler. Let's stick on that one for a minute here. I'd like to know Borzello's take on this one, but I think he's going to have a bad year to be let go. Like I think if he's okay,
I think it's like missing the tournament 3. And yes, right. I would agree. I mean, like that's to me, like they're like a borderline top 25 team on paper. I think they're going to make the tournament. I think they can win a game in the tournament, and so like much like we just talked about with Kim English, like this is a conversation that we're probably not having in 5 months or, a year. I think he's going to buy himself a lot of time with what this year's team does. There's more than enough talent to make the tournament. There's more than enough talent to win a game. If he goes 500, if they underperform dramatically, I think things could, feel warm come March. I mean, I think the school owes him just under $5 million if they really want to move on in the spring. But again, I think there's the roster, the way it's put together, what they did in the portal, the guys they have coming back, they did a pretty good job with retention. Bruce Thornton's coming back, Devin Royal's coming back, Janai Mobley's coming back. It's a team that, to me, will make this conversation completely moot come March.
Yeah, I mean, I think Diebler has a good enough relationship with the money people there too, and that helped him get the job. So I think that will help him retain the job beyond year 2, even if he doesn't do what he should do this year, which again, I'm with Borzello. I think they end up being a tournament team. And Hoiberg made it last year. So Hoiberg's fine. He's the most likable guy probably in the country, right? Is
Hoiberg's
anybody more well-liked?
$10.5 million after this season. They're not paying him that.
Right.
Yeah. Well, the Hoiberg wasn't the one that I was really interested in. I think Steve Peichel, and look, it's Rutgers, right? So
$20 million for a buyout, not happening either.
No chance.
Steve Peichel,
Zero.
Steve Peichel, $20 million.
More than $20 million, yes.
I need to hire his agent.
Fully guaranteed contract for 2031.
Right.
Fully guaranteed deal. We talk, these schools are not going to stop giving out fully guaranteed deals to proven coaches. And he won early. He had like historically good seasons.
He made Rutgers relevant.
And they rewarded him.
He made Rutgers relevant.
So, well,
I got no problem with it. I mean, Rob, I got no problem with it. I mean, he's won there, and then you go back and look at obviously, with the freshman class he had coming in. Obviously, it's a disappointment now. We all know what the season ended like, but what he did before and getting to the tournament and what he did to that program, he was worth the guarantee money. If not, it's hell, he would have got the hell out of there and went somewhere else had you not extended him.
No, I'm with you. He did a great job there. I was more surprised that more than 20 million was a number. Like what is Nate Oates?
It's a fully guaranteed. It's a fully guaranteed deal through 2031. It adds up.
Good for him, man.
And you
Pike,
know what?
Go get it.
You know what, too?
Go get it, Pike.
Pike will probably do better with this year's roster.
Yes.
Where, again, none of these dudes, right, were highly recruited than he did with two, high lottery picks a year ago.
2 lottery picks.
Yep. The SEC we can be quick on because I don't think that there's a ton in there that's worth talking about. Matt McMahon is probably the guy that had the hottest seat, and Brian Kelly did him a huge favor and probably got him another year of SEC paychecks, which is always fun to get. Lamont Paris, I think we talked about him a little bit before we hit record, Borzello, but he's a guy where he's probably safe unless like the bottom completely falls out again. And Porter Moser is a guy, I would put him in like the Diebler conversation where it's starting to warm up a little bit, but I think that he actually has a roster this year to be able to get back to the tournament. He was in the tournament last season. They were a 9 seed despite going 6-12 in the SEC. So I don't think that there's not a lot interesting in this conference to me when it comes to hot seat.
Yeah, I would agree. I mean, McMahon is the one that we're watching. I mean, I think Paris, unless he goes 0-18 in the SEC, and even then, he's still signed through 2030. Now, again, the SEC has money. We've seen that, but I don't see a world where Lamont Paris gets fired in a couple of months. Porter Moser, things were heating up a little bit toward the end of last season, and they make the tournament, as you mentioned. I think the roster this year is, again, good enough to make the tournament. So McMahon is the one. They have a better roster. I feel they had a pretty good portal season. Again, it's another team that suddenly found money to go spend in the portal and to build the roster. And again, the question is, even with an improved roster, how much further or how much better can you move in the SEC, given that there's going to be another 13 or 14 teams pushing for an NCAA tournament bid? But I don't see them going 3-15 in the league again. And if they show signs of improvement with the better roster, with what now they're paying Brian Kelly, I think his seat got a little cooler this week. But again, he's still one where they're going to have to show at least or provide some signs of optimism going into or down the stretch of this coming season.
All right, I'm going to list 5 names for you guys. I don't want you to tell me who you think needs to have a good season the most, if any of these guys are really in danger. Porter Moser, Steve Forbes, Ed Cooley, Jerome Tang, Jeff Capel. RC, I'll start with you.
Wait,
Porter
Moser. What are we doing? What's the game?
Just
what's the question again?
Are these guys in? It's a list of. Are you a year away from the hot seat? And I want you to tell me if any of these guys are actually in danger here. Porter Moser, Steve Forbes, Ed Cooley, Jerome Tang, Jeff Capel.
All of the above are a year away from being in trouble.
Goodman firing everyone. Shocker.
No.
Here we go.
No, I'm not firing them. I'm just saying they're all a year away from being on the hot seat.
Oh, yeah.
How's that? They're all a year away, not from being fired. None of them are probably going to be fired this year, no matter what happens. All 5 of them are a year away from being on this hot seat if they don't have a good year this year. How's that?
I agree with that. And I would go as far as to say with Forbes, it has to happen, right? There's nothing else to discuss. We've checked all the boxes. It's got to be NCAA tournament. And again, judging by the standard that you guys have said 4 or 5 times, this is your 6th. Yep. And so if you want to count it as 5 because of COVID, it's time. If he was right here right now, he'd say it's time. It's just time. It's time for the Deeks to make the tournament. There's nothing else. He's done all the other stuff. It's just time to make the NCAA tournament. Whether you want to argue whether they should have been or shouldn't have been, I mean, we can get into all that kind of stuff another time. But it's time for the Deeks to get into the tournament, and if not, then there will be a conversation in March. Now, whether it happens or not, that's a whole other conversation. But it's time for the Deeks to get in the dance.
Yep. All right. Well, listen, we got to get to a break. I do want to have a conversation about the retirement watch and whether or not we think any of these potential Hall of Famers and current Hall of Famers are really going to hang it up anytime soon. And who's next? The next up, we're not calling it the jump seat anymore, Goodman. We are calling it the on-deck circle. Who are the best mid-major coaches in the world of college basketball? After the break. As you know by now, we have teamed up with BetMGM again this season. We'll be using BetMGM lines to make all of our picks, and we will have special offers for Field of 68 fans, including same-game parlays, best-in-class live betting, and daily odds boost. If you haven't signed up for BetMGM yet, use bonus code FIELD to get up to a $1,500 first bet offer on your first wager with BetMGM. Here's how it works. You download the BetMGM app, you sign up using bonus code FIELD, you deposit at least $10 and place your first wager on any game, and you receive up to $1,500 in bonus bets if your bet loses. Just make sure you use that bonus code FIELD when you sign up. Make this college basketball season one for the history books. Make it legendary. And don't forget, if you haven't signed up for BetMGM yet, use bonus code FIELD and get your $1,500 first bet offer today. Do you need your fix of college basketball analysis at the end of every night during the season? If you crave instant reactions and informed breakdowns, make sure you tune into the Field of 68 After Dark every night with access to the biggest stars in the sport and a cast of characters that includes the likes of Tyler Hansborough, Randolph Childress, John Fanta, John Henson, Terrence Oglesby, Jarrell McNeil, and many, many more. The Field of 68 After Dark is where college basketball happens. There is no sport in America that is more difficult to follow than college basketball. It can be overwhelming. That's where the Field of 68 Daily comes into play. The Daily is your go-to source for injury updates, recruiting news, and transfer portal additions that actually matter. For just $50 a year, get access to the same information that your favorite team's coaching staff is subscribed for. Quality content can be hard to find in the college basketball space. The Daily is here to help you with that. Well, welcome back to the Field of 68's Hot Seat Show here on After Dark. Rob Dauster, Jeff Goodman, Randolph Childress, and the insider that you need to be paying attention to, the guy that has all the knowledge, the one and only Jeff Borzello. I'm only allowed to say nice things about him for the next 24 hours, and then it's strictly hate. Retirement watch, Randolph. We've seen Jay Wright hang it up. We saw Tony Bennett hang it up. We saw Bruce Pearl call it a career. And there have been plenty of rumors about a number of guys that are getting up there around Goodman's age, like Greg McDermott and Mark Few and Tom Izzo and Bill Self and Kelvin Sampson. Let me ask you this, Randolph, just kind of big picture. Do you see any of those guys, any of those big names ultimately retiring anytime soon? Because I kind of feel like there's a couple, specifically Kelvin Sampson and Tom Izzo, where they're going to, when they are done coaching, is when they fall over on the sideline directly into their casket. That's how long it's going to be until they're gone.
I think they're going to have to drag Izzo out the building. Other than that, right. I don't see him retiring soon. It's going to be until Michigan State starts struggling. When recruits stop going and they start struggling and then they make that decision, that's all it's going to take with him. If I had to say a guy, I'd say Bill Self. And the biggest factor would be because of the health issues. Mm-hmm. I think that's something that none of us know. I mean, what that's like. I mean, he's having procedures done and he's missing time. And you know, we go back a couple of years ago when his team was really good and he had to miss time going into the tournament with that group. As much as he loves it, he's one of the best to ever do it. And he's obviously a Hall of Fame coach. But we're talking about his health, and when you start talking about age is one thing, but health is a totally different thing. And so we're talking about health with him, and he would be the guy that would not surprise me because he's an old school guy as well, and he's trying to adjust through all of this too. I think a combination of his health and having to deal with all this with the great players he's coached, and then he's paying some of these guys that he's probably looking at going, I got to give you $250,000, and you couldn't. You weren't this compared to some of these guys I had. So I'm a huge fan of Bill Self. I think we all are. But when you start talking about health issues with age, that would be the guy that I think that, wouldn't surprise me in a year or two, just says, you know what, I'm done with this.
Borzello?
Yeah, I mean, I
I think
can't
my pick would
disagree with
probably
that.
be, I think my pick would probably be of anybody. If someone did it, I think my pick would be Mark Few. He just seems like the kind of, he's always kind of maintained he's not going to coach until he's 70. He's not going to be I guess a lifer, and there's really no drama with kind of the succession plan there. It was going to be Tommy Lloyd, now it's going to be Brian Michelson, by all accounts, and so it wouldn't. That's one where it could happen anytime, and he's going to do it on his own accord, but that's one where I don't think he's going to, I don't think he's going to deal with rumors for 4 or 5 years. I think, it's going to happen at some point soon. He's going to turn 63 this season. Again, he's been on record saying, I don't want to coach, forever. And so it seems to me that it's, they're not kind of compiling the rosters they used to. It's kind of a different world. All the realignments happening. It seems like, if there was going to be a time, it would be pretty soon.
I think all those guys that hired the successor are already, I think within the next 2 or 3 years for sure, if not this year. I think those, that's why they've done that. We talked about Huss being a head coach. We're not talking about an assistant. We're talking about a guy that was a head coach that went to the NCAA tournament, and he comes in there. You just don't do that. If it was just a high major job, he checked the box with that. He was going to get that anyway. So I think those jobs are sooner rather than later. That's why I said Bill. I think Bill's the one who has a blue blood job and has been, obviously, like I said, Hall of Fame career. It just wouldn't surprise me if, because of the times and health that he calls it a day.
Yeah, it wouldn't shock me if it's Few. It wouldn't shock me if it's Self after this year. McDermott, obviously, I think it's going to be a year or two. If he sticks around too, Alan Huss gets paid. So I don't think it'll be more than 2. The one that I think could happen, especially after watching Bruce Pearl give it to his son, I think Kelvin could do it after this year. He's 70 years old. They had a great chance last year. They have another great chance this year. I think watching Bruce give Stephen Pearl the job kind of at the right time too, right? Give him a team that's got some talent. I think he wants to do the same thing for Kellen. So I think that could happen. Izzo, as you said, I think it's going to take a doctor to tell Tom Izzo when to stop. The name that I want to give you guys that I want to throw out and see what you think. Dan Altman, yeah, that could happen too this year. What about John Calipari? What about if Cal doesn't have some great year this year at Arkansas? He's turned, I think, 67 this year. Could he be a surprise of like, hey, you know what? Like, I'm done. I'm done with this shit. I'm out. I don't know. I'm not saying like I got no insight into it, obviously.
Thinks he probably wants to have one more like great team. Now I don't know if that's just right. And again, if it takes a couple more years and he still doesn't have that, then maybe I just don't think he wants to go out with, left Kentucky, a couple of years at Arkansas that, where he didn't really bring them to, as far as he thought he could bring them. It just feels like he's the type of guy that's like, you know what, I want one more really, really great team, one more really deep run in the tournament, and then we'll see. He just kind of has always seemed like that kind of guy to me. I don't think he wants to step down kind of doing what he's done the last 5-6 years.
He doesn't want to limp out. He wants to go out on top. That's exactly who he is.
I think with Kyle, and he also wants to stick it to Kentucky and win something there in Arkansas, and he has the resource. And I think it won't last but a couple of more years anyway, because at some point with the money that he's going to put toward his teams, if he doesn't get over the hump, then you're going to have people saying this is the same stuff that they're going to bring up what they were, harping on at Kentucky. Kyle can't, he won't get the big one. He won't get it. So I think he's more motivated now than ever. But I think this relationship with Arkansas, will be a couple of years, and that's fine. I mean, whether he coaches till he's 70 or whatever, it doesn't matter. But I do think he's motivated to show Kentucky that what they're missing out on.
All right. This is the real fascinating part of this conversation, because we know who's going to replace McDermott, and we know who's going to replace Mark Few, and we know who's going to replace Kelvin Sampson. Dana Altman's at Oregon, which is like the face of the Nike brand, right? We have Bill Self at Kansas, which is one of the biggest programs and maybe a top 3 job in the sport of college basketball, somewhere around there. And we have Tom Izzo and Michigan State. So, Goodman, I'll go to you first. Bill Self, Kansas. If he steps down at some point here in the next couple of years, who do you think is going to be the guy? Who do you think it will be? And who would it be if you were the guy making the decision?
I mean, I think it'll be Jock Vaughn. I think that's why the AD brought him on this year. Former NBA coach, former Jayhawk great. So I think that's not a clear succession plan, but I think that's going to be the guy. That's not who I would hire. I would go hard after Nate Oates. I think Nate would be great at Kansas. I think you need a big personality. I think the playing style works. I think the other part of it, obviously, is it's Kansas. It's a basketball school where Nate has done an incredible job at a football school, but that's who I would hire.
Borzello?
I would have said Jock Vaughn. I think it's the logical replacement for what, you don't really bring him, a 2-time NBA coach, former star player. You don't bring them on, in the middle of spring to just kind of add to your staff. I think there is, not a written succession plan, but I think he's positioned himself pretty well to be the logical next guy there. I don't mind the Nate Oates shout. I mean, I think, and this kind of goes for, if Carolina opens or any of these big jobs, I think you're going to see Nate Oates, Todd Golden, Tommy Lloyd, Dusty May. I think those are kind of the names off the top of my head that would be in the mix for these, blue blood level jobs. I think that's kind of the quartet. Now, would any of them leave? Does it cost too much money? I don't know. But those are kind of the guys I would circle for a Carolina, a Kansas, something like that.
Randolph?
I agree with you guys. No, I agree with you guys. I think it's Jock Vaughn. I think he's come back and it's just to adjust to the college game, to figure all this out. A lot of it is a pro, and I think he's obviously well equipped to do that. But I do think there's things that he gets to see and learn, obviously, from Bill about how things are done at the collegiate level. And I think that'll make it just a smooth transition for him, whenever Bill Self tries to step away.
You're crazy.
I think
you're crazy. I'm going to give you, I'm going to send you the list. I'm going to send you the list of all those former NBA guys again, because
I knew you were going to say that, the former NBA guys.
You've gotten older. You've gotten older.
I'll say this to you.
You forget.
No, I will say this. The game is now run like an NBA, anyway. So I think it's easier now from the guys coming down if they're working, right? You still got to grind, but it's still not as much of a grind as it once was. If you got money, which he will have at Kansas, and resources to identify and enough resources around him, we know he can coach. I think it's an easy plan, and I don't think he'll be on your list of NBA guys that's struggling in the college game. I think he'll do fine at Kansas.
All right, let's go the other direction. Randolph, give me who you think it's the Michigan State job and who you would hire if you were the guy making the decision. Let's just say Tom Izzo steps down at the end of the season.
Right.
Who you go?
I think the natural thought initially would be right away might be Drew Valentine. Just it takes that's it. But I will say this. I'm gonna say something crazy, and I know you guys will laugh at me when this happens.
No, I love when you're
he's gonna say Draymond Green, isn't it?
It would. Yes, I was gonna say if he was to stick around for a couple of years, it would not surprise me if he did something crazy like when he retired and he brings Draymond back. It would not surprise me at all to bring somebody like that back when Draymond retired. Like it was probably with their relationship that they both planned it together. Like, all right, I'm gonna step down. You're gonna retire. Come here and coach Michigan State. But no, I think Drew Valentine's the natural.
So wait,
do you know how much fun it would be?
Do you want Carolina to hire Rasheed Wallace? Do you want Carolina to hire Rasheed?
That's more of a natural transaction from Tom Izzo to. Are you kidding me? Like Tom Izzo and Draymond Green, it's like the same person. It's like that's the same guy.
I will say, can you imagine what college basketball would be like if Draymond Green gets the Michigan State job and he turns it into like?
I would pray for it. I would pray that he would do that.
It would be so much fun. Draymond Green talking all his shit
that's my wish
with a
list.
Michigan State team that's consistently top 10 would be unbelievable theater. I wish. Can you imagine him going on his podcast after every game?
No, he just would do it at a press conference now. He would do it at his press conference now.
Oh, man, that'd be great. Borzello, Michigan State, what do you got?
I think Drew Valentine's probably the logical one. Again, I mean, if would Nate Oates return to the state of Michigan? I mean, he might be in a better spot now. And that's the other thing is a lot of these, the Goldens and the Tommy Lloyds and the Oates, like they're in great jobs and they're in, arguably better situations than Michigan State from a resources perspective. And so I do think that.
Are they right now?
I mean,
are they right now? Now they probably will be in a couple of years, but I'm not sure right now that Alabama next year is going to have the rev share.
You might be right.
Maybe
about
Michigan State would, So
you,
but I hear you.
I mean,
I'm with you. Like to me, Drew Valentine's probably the guy. You guys haven't said the connection there, but obviously he was a GA for Tom Izzo. His brother Denzel played for Tom Izzo and starred for Tom Izzo. So I think Drew's got the inside track there. But yes, I would go after Nate Oates. Yeah. That would be my first call.
Nate's going to be at the top of everyone.
Yeah. What job would Nate Oates not be your first call?
Right.
I mean, not many. Not many. Look at what he's done in Alabama. Like, deservedly so. When you compare Nate Oates' resume to most other guys that are maybe gettable, yeah, like he's above all of them. I mean, he's done a lot more than Drew Valentine. No, I mean that's no knock on Drew.
Goodman, give me a name for Michigan State.
I just did, didn't I? You've been
sleeping?
He gave you the same name, Rob.
Michigan State. And you're gonna the next one you're gonna ask is Oregon. Oregon, I have no names for. I don't know if there's not a Jock Vaughn or a Drew Valentine where it's what do you got? What, Luke Jackson, Luke Ridnour?
Go just hire Worldwide West.
Hey, Rob, would you shut this operation down soon, man? We
starting to... It's been great. I'm so glad we're back.
Computer's starting to shake, Rob. We're getting off the wheels.
Worldwide West, Tony Stubblefield, and bring back Kenny Payne.
There you go.
Bring the band back together. Get the band back.
They would have so much talent on an NIT team.
Yeah.
All right. I do want to get to the who's next list because I think that's something where we spend all this time talking about who's going to get fired or not. I do think that we should highlight and celebrate some of the guys that are having a good deal of success at the lower level. So Borzello, we'll start with you on this one. Give me a couple names, 3-4 names that you think are the guys that are going to be the next up from the mid-major ranks to really make some noise.
We can't pick the same ones. Borzello can pick three.
The proudest I've been on any time I've been on Field 68 is the fact that you guys do not call us the jump seat now. That has been a movement of mine for years, ever since you guys stupidly called it that. And so I'm now proud that we've moved on from jump seat. But the guys
on deck circle, baby. The on deck circle
on the jump list would be, I think, Utah State's Jared Calhoun. I think he's probably the top of that list. He was in the mix for a couple of high major jobs last season. Utah State is a factory when it comes to producing high major coaches. I think he's next on that list. I think Takeo Siddle at UNC Wilmington went to the tournament last season. I think they're going to win the league this year. They have enough talent to do it. He's won the CAA regular season title. He's finished in the top 3 4 straight years. I think he's ready to make the jump. The next one I would put would probably be Josh Schertz. I think that his star, 18 months ago, he was considered, one of the most sought after coaches in the country. And then 1 year at St. Louis, not like they were terrible. And he's sort of forgotten about a little bit. But I think that, they're going to compete for an A-10 title this year. And I think that, he's won 32 games in Indiana State. He runs really good offense. I think he could easily kind of get his star back up to where he's in the mix for every job in the country again.
RC?
I'm gonna say I think he's already earned the right to do it. I was surprised that he seems to has to go back at it again. I think Bob Ritchie. I think he's already proven the type of coach he could be, and he's already won in the tournament as well. So I hope people aren't waiting for him to have to win the SoCon again or something to get the opportunity. But I think he's a heck of a coach and on his way. Eric Henderson, another guy. We had him last year at South Dakota State. Now he's at Drake. It wouldn't surprise me in the next couple of years we'd see him moving on. I got to try someone different, and I'm going to go coming off, last year it was Tony Skeen at Mason. He's done a heck of a job, and he's one of these guys that's up and coming, and I like what he's doing so far. So we had to pick something different, but those would be the three guys I like.
Goodman?
All right, you guys took 6 of them that were all on my list. I'm going to Drew Valentine. I'm going to start with Drew Valentine. I think he's been hot, and I think he'll get even hotter this year. Bill Armstrong taking over for McNeese. I think they're going to win at such a high level. Again, he's got money. He can coach. We know that. So I think he takes over and does a great job right away out of the gates. And I'm going to say Brian Hodgson will be at South Florida for 1 year and then bounce to a big time job. He's got ties down south. He's got ties in the Northeast. So I could see those 3. There are plenty more. I mean, plenty more we can go through as well.
I want to give a shout out. Yep, Chris Gerlofson,
Russell Turner.
Chris Gerlofson was going to be the name that I mentioned. Eric Olin at New Mexico, like he's a guy that built UC San Diego twice from a Division II. Also ran to a team that went 30-1, and then took him to Division I and went 30-5 after 5 years there. And he's going to a place in New Mexico where it's almost impossible not to win. Is a guy that I would list. Matt Langle,
Chris Mack.
Chris Mack, if he lays off the animal crackers late at night, it's becoming a little bit of an issue. It's a continuous thing with him. And no more TikToks.
Dan Earl at Chattanooga.
No chance. Nope, never. That's a Medford guy. No chance. Can't trust those Medford guys. Matt Langle from Colgate, and I'm not just saying that because his little brother coaches my son's AAU program. So I'm gonna.
Of course not.
You are just saying that.
Of course not.
I'm kissing a little Matt Langle, Casey Langle ass, so I can get chased back into the starting lineup here on Saturday. We got a tournament coming up on Saturday. So, and Bryce Drew, is Bryce Drew ever going to make it back, Goodman?
Yeah, but he's got a hell of a job. I'm not sure, honestly, why you'd want to leave Grand Canyon, because you've got great resources going into to the Mountain West. What about Phil Martelli Jr.? How long does he last at VCU?
Like 2 or 3 years. How long does anybody last at VCU now? It's like 2 or 3 years.
Yeah.
He's probably on his way out. What about Mike Morrell at UNC Asheville? Won 70 games the last 3 seasons. He was, when we saw him at Big South Media Day, I don't think anybody that we saw, Goodman, was as fired up about everything that was happening in the world of college basketball than Mike Morrell. He came in juiced, man. I don't know if he had too many cups of coffee or something, but he came in like it was about 2:00 in the morning. And he was getting a table at Hakkasan with Jeff Borzello.
Who else we forget? All right, we don't need to get into Hakkasan. Flynn Clayman, could he be a one and done? Could Flynn Clayman at High Point? They got really good resources, a heck of a team. He could be a one and done.
You know what? This is the way that I'm going to shout out Robert Jones too at Norfolk State, because it feels like we always overlook some of these guys at the HBCUs, and that dude coaches his nuts off, and he's been doing it for a long time.
Time for those guys. It's time for him to get a chance.
James Jones has won either the regular season title or gone to the tournament each of the last 6 seasons. If BC moved on from Earl Grant, would he be a name there?
Yeah.
Should be.
Red Auerbach.
Red Auerbach. Hey, Goodman, what about Joe Pasternak?
Yeah, I mean, Pasternak, if he gets it back at Santa Barbara, I mean, he's got to get back there, because they've been down a little bit by their standards.
I'm just really happy that nobody said Pat Scary.
That's happy. That's mean.
How can you not? But we have said Takeo Siddle and Chris Mack. Yep. How can you not include Pat Scary?
Yeah,
trio.
yeah. Pat is great. This is the way that I want to end it, and this is an actual serious question. Is that as we see this thing kind of start churning faster, and we see the speed of these coaching hires and coaching tenures end up being a little bit quicker, like doesn't it kind of feel like at some point you run out of quality coaching candidates, right? Like if everybody is only going to get 2 or 3 years at a job and then
I
they
think
get
it's happening in
fired,
football right now.
yeah, like it feels like you kind of churn through everyone so quickly that that you don't have as many options as maybe you think you have. And a guy has one good year at a mid major, and we're gonna go hire him to a high major, and we don't really know what he could end up being. It just feels like as we accelerate this process, you're kind of starting to dilute some of the guys that maybe would have ended up really, really good if they could have given him 4, 5, 6 years at a high major.
Yes. There aren't guys like Brad Stevens when he was at Butler and Shaka Smart when he was at VCU, when they turned down multiple high major opportunities. Like that's just not happening anymore. Those guys are jumping quick.
I mean, the gap is too big between that level of school and the top of the pyramid now. It's just
In the
guys
time
are
frame we're in
up.
now, the money is different. It's like now you need money to win. So those guys aren't turning those jobs down now because their opportunity for success, it's only going to be dependent upon how much money they're going to be able to get to win.
And I'm sure the salaries help too. If you can go make $3.5 million a year for 6 years guaranteed and be able to have a buyout of 20+ million at a program like Rutgers, shout out to Steve Feichel, man. That might be the best contract in sports. I'm serious. I got to talk to his agent. Listen, this has been fun, fellas. It's always great to see you, Borzello. It's always a pleasure, RC. It really gets me fired up that you're back here on the field of 68. And I have spent at least 4 hours and 15 of the last 29 days having to talk to that grumpy old curmudgeon.
That's your fault. You should have called me. I'd have bailed you out and got you out.
Hey, listen. Next time, hey,
I'm going to pretend you're a fly. Next time I see you, I'm going to pretend like you're the fly that was running around this room, and I'm going to take a swatter. And you better be careful.
And not actually get anything accomplished, which is pretty much typical for Goodman. Shout out to one of our super chat fans. His name is Terrence Oglesby, something like that. I think I pronounced that right. He said, "This is what this show was." Quote, "Jeff wants to fire everybody. Randolph doesn't want anyone fired. Borzello knows the buyout, and Dauster can't get a word in."
Tell him that's intentional. We don't want Rob to speak.
Exactly.
Anyway.
The last part was the best part.
All right, listen. Field of 68 After Dark is back. We'll be here at 9:00 tomorrow, breaking down. It'll be a bold prediction show. We're going to have a little bit of fun with that one. On Thursday night at 8:00, we're going to be live with a mailbag. So make sure we have a Gmail set up, Dagan. I don't know if you can put it up on the screen, where you can send in videos of questions. Yeah, field of 68 videos at gmail.com. Send in any questions that you have. If you want to send them in, we'll get you on the show. We want to get a little bit more fan interaction on the podcast this season. And then Monday, 8 a.m., Jeff Goodman, Randolph Childress, Paul Fritchner will be in Rock Hill, South Carolina for the first game of the college basketball season and the opener of the Field of 68 opening day showcase. I can't wait. In about 2 hours, we are only going to be 5 days away from the start of the college basketball season. It's almost here. Field of 68 After Dark.